So in my language, the religion is like the book. The outside of the book is the religion, and what's inside the words on the pages and the feelings that they bring about is where the real magic is. That's the spirituality. So you see religions where everybody's got their little symbol. In New Age too, you got an Om symbol here, somebody's got a cross here, somebody's got a Star of David, and it's just like game and like, you know, and then they're shooting negative words at each other, and they're losing the whole point of what religion's about, which religion means to reconnect, even though we were never connected, but the whole idea of that. So we get caught up on the words, which are not powerful, because the words are meant to have us make these ahas that then open the heart, right? That's where the true power is, not in the words themselves. So, I guess I kind of ended that where I was my brain is like, and then the second part of that was the whole thing about love, is being in that heart space and being open to how your heart guides you in the moment. Sometimes, like say you've got a druggy son, they're in lots of trouble, and they're wanting money, but you know that they're going to go spend that money on drugs. So in that instance, withholding, which doesn't seem very loving, is the loving thing to do. You know what I mean? So we have labels on what love should be and shouldn't do, and we prevent it from flowing, or we judge ourselves. So to me, I would like to live in that space where I stay in love all the time. No matter where I go, no matter what I do, love is there because my eye sees love. Does that make sense? Even if my actions are making me do something that someone may assume or judge to be unloving, right? It's just about, I want to be in the loving space because I want to be able to look at whoever I'm dealing with, be in love, and not love that, even if I have to be stern. And I think not being able to get that, for most human brains, leads to God being interpreted in particular ways. So God can't like accept you how you are and be stern, but damn you to hell. It doesn't make sense. Like for the parents of you out there, at what point, seriously, at what point, since God is the Father, right? Think about yourself being a parent. At what point do you deem that that child of yours has bypassed a certain point and that you reject them for eternity?
Never.
Never. Why would God be less than that? God is worse than us, you know what I mean? Because our mind has made God that way, right? And we do the same thing with love. So.
I had an experience like that earlier this week. I was at the gas station up here on the corner getting some gas, and some guy came up to me and was asking for some money for gas for his car because he, paycheck was 2 days away and he didn't have any money for the gas in his car. And I immediately just kind of dismissed it, like I don't have any money, blah blah blah. I just put all my money on this gift card.
Right.
And while I was pumping the gas, I did kind of a mental check of, is that coming from here?
That's a good.
Or is that coming from here?
Right, right.
And I finished pumping the gas, I still had like $4 or $5 on the card, and I realized that it was all coming from up here.
Mm-hmm.
And so I just went over to him. He was sitting in his car smoking a cigarette, and I was like, "Here, this got $4 on that."
Mm-hmm.
I just gave it to him.
Right.
Because that was what was my heart was telling me to do.
Yeah, and that's a good point, Stephen, because that, sometimes it is just that. Okay, is it my head screwing with all the limitations?
Is it just a knee-jerk?
Yeah, because religion, unfortunately, like I said, the words, when misinterpreted and not come from the heart and not the heart awakening, because Jesus is about awakening the heart. He was about taking all the rules away. Really, that's why he was killed, right? He was empowering people. He wasn't he was empowering individuals, right? That's why they took him out. So, but within the religion, there's more restrictions and rules about love. Like even in different religions have different rules, like Catholic. To be ostracized for divorcing someone. What is less loving than that? To be thrown out of your home and your family, which church is home and family, people, just because your heart is not in it anymore. You know what I mean? That's like saying, okay, follow your heart, follow your love, and then God will expel you. I mean, we misinterpret that because of what we've been told and programmed. So religion, instead of tying people together, sometimes, not always, winds up separating us more and more. And we become more restrictive. And then we go around like, you don't do that. We wind up judging sexual preference. We wind up judging certain races, and all because of religion, for the most part, right? But where's the love in? Where's the love in that? It's not in that, because it's just the words. So words are not the power. It's the heart that's supposed to be open. And I don't care what you're trying to do, if your heart center isn't open, and bringing in all the stuff like Nassim and everything around the toroidal field, your heart is the center of that energy field. It's the center of the chakra system. And the Torah, which is in the Bible, which is a rolled up scroll, that Torah, the toroidal field, is this tube of energy. And those 7 seals on the Torah in the Bible are the 7 chakras. And they don't open unless, in Revelations, there's only one being that can open all the 7 seals on the Torah. And that one being, of course, is Christ. But Christ is a particular presence of energy. It's all loving, no exclusion, okay? That is the only thing that will open all your chakras and give you all the power, is being in that state of in love all the time.
It's a form of consciousness.
Yeah, when you're not in love, whatever, based on the particular situation, different things are going to close down. Okay, you literally choke your life for, I mean, literally, if that's a tube, we like choke it. Because to me, the chakras, here's a tube going down the center of me, and the chakras are like bands, okay? So if I'm not loving around something, that area gets choked off. So here's this energy coming through the tube, and then it gets cut off, right? And this energy is flowing and creating our reality. So when we're not in that loving space, our chakras aren't open, they're closed. So the idea for me is to be in that loving space. And it doesn't mean that you don't even fight back sometimes, because I'll take it to an extreme just for an example. Let's say somebody breaks into your house and is threatening your family. If you can stay in a loving space, and I've done this mind game myself, I might have to kill someone, but I would still try to remain in love to do that. You see what I'm trying to say? Even if I had to protect my family, the loving thing to do would be to kill the person. That sounds crazy, but I'm trying to take it to an extreme for you to get it. Is you got to stay in that loving space. So it doesn't mean you stop acting, and you don't sometimes do things that look, you know what I mean? Like, let's say someone's in the bed and they're suffering, and they don't, and they're like, I can't handle this cancer anymore. It's killing me. I feel horrible, and they ask you to kill them. You know, we would then judge that we couldn't do that because it's a non-loving thing. But that's where we cut ourselves off. Maybe it would be loving to do that for that person.
I could do it.
Yeah, I could do it.
We do that for our pets.
Yeah, I've had to do that for it's hard, but I've done that for an animal. As long as you can stay in a loving space, it's different. You know, it's not like you're doing it from a vengeful space. Right. That's different. It's like, can you stay in love and still do the things, the hard things? That's the tricky part. Can you stay in your power even in the tricky situations that are not so black and white? And we don't have to go to the extremes of those, but yeah, putting pets down and things like that. In your workup, you probably see a lot of that. So, yeah. And I could do it too. Somebody want me to. If I had to, I surely could, but I wouldn't want to. But
I've got a friend that is beginning conversations with hospice about possibly stopping dialysis, because things are just 3 days a week dialysis, blind in one eye, and then relationship with the father's pretty bad. And he was explaining this morning that when he talked about this to his family, the father said, oh yeah, like he didn't care. The older brother said, oh, that's really mature. And the younger brother says, well, you're terminal. They're not, any of them, coming from that loving space. So I can really connect with what you're saying.
So yeah, because we have all these judgments around certain behaviors. So a lot of what you said, I could see the judgment, especially in was it the first son who said you're being, or the brother who said you're being stupid? That's a judgment right out there when somebody says you're doing something.
Being immature, yeah.
Immature, yeah, that's the word. So yeah, I mean, love is a little more hard than we think it is, and it doesn't look always like we think it does either. And to me, you can't define love because it's fluctuating all the time. Like, I can have a different love with every one of you, but I can still be in love with every one of you. You see what I'm trying to say? I can be in love with my brother, my sister, my mother. It may fold and do different because of the feeling that comes from my heart in each moment. Sometimes I'll be more giving, sometimes this, that. But it doesn't mean that it's any less or any different. It's just the way it comes out at the moment.
That's why it's explaining that when you have people that say, you know, well, do you love me more than so-and-so? And it's like, I don't love anybody any different than anybody else. I just love them, or any more than anybody else. I just love them differently.
Yeah.
It's a different
I can
Different
understand where you're coming
frames
from
of
now, because when my brother was dying, and when they kept, at first they gave me a lot of hope, and then they said, he's blind, he's paralyzed, he's got brain damage, and I had to get to the point where I wasn't judging me before I could tell them, no, turn it off.
Yeah.
Because I kept thinking,
The life support.
God, I'm
Yeah.
killing it. I'm killing it.
Torture. Not killing, but torturing.
Yeah, and then I got to the point where, no, I'm not. Well, if it was me, like,
Oh, when you turn off, I'm sorry. When you turn off
when I
the,
turned off the life support, when I had to get to I had to get to where I quit judging myself.
Right. And that's.
And I had to ask myself, if I was lying in that bed, what would I want my brother to do for me?
Yeah.
It's a huge, huge, huge place to wrap your head
Oh
around.
yeah.
And the doctors gave her a guilt trip
Yeah,
too.
the doctors gave me a guilt
They're
trip.
probably getting $20,000 a day for him laying there.
From the
They want to keep
VA,
him
he
there
was
as long
a
as possible.
ex-military, and he had VA benefits and stuff, and the doctor made me feel like I was just the most horrid person in the world when I said, I don't want to continue this treatment.
Right. But part of that is facing what other people are going to say about you to live in your heart. Because, we always hear about persecution, especially in the Bible. The persecution is when you come from the heart, you don't look like the normal person out there. Because the normal person out there isn't always coming from their heart. So by you turning off life support or choosing to do that, that was probably the most loving thing in that moment. But if somebody else is going to look on the outside, they'll judge it. But you can't let that affect you.
I had to just get to the point, it was real hard. It was hard to make the decision, but I had to get to the point where I asked
Nobody
myself,
likes to make decisions like that.
what would my brother do? If my brother knew what would I want? If I
So
was
wait
going
a
in
month
there?
for him to pass or
No,
get better.
it was 11 days,
Well, it
but
seemed like forever.
I bet it did seem like a lot.
it seemed like forever, because every day I got back and there was no response, no response, no response, and he just kept going downhill, downhill, downhill. But that doctor made me feel like I was the most horrid human being on the face of this earth, and finally I had to say, you know what, I don't care what he thinks. I care about my brother that I love more than anything in this world, and I don't want him to lay there blind, paralyzed with brain damage and be on life support the rest of his days. That's not what he would have wanted.
Yeah.
But I understand what you're saying about that one. It's the judging ourselves that's the hardest part. I think on most everything, it's the self-judgment.
Well, we worry about what other people think or say. It doesn't make any difference because our perception and their perception are totally different.
But it's an easy way to control people when you tell them that love is.
Right.
All right? Instead of letting it be a real, always changing thing. That's why I say you can't define it. Because love may be this one moment, and it may be something entirely different another moment. You can't say love is blank. It's like saying God is. As soon as you say God is something or love is something, then really they cease to be what they are.
God
Right?
is love.
Yeah. If you can keep an expanded consciousness of love, that's why I never really liked that particular term, because what people thought love was restricted God too. You know what I mean?
Yes.
But if you can keep the perception I'm talking about, where love is ever changing in the moment depending on what is needed, then God is that. But if your old view of love is the old view, then God is not that. You know what I mean? They're both the same thing to me. If you can see that they're not limited by anything. That's why in a lot of different religions they say it's forbidden for you to even play with the idea of what God is. You're not even supposed to contemplate that. And I can get that to some degree, because it is undefinable. It's everything, yet nothing.
That quote you read from Jeffrey Hobson, I think,
Yeah.
that was so meaningful to me.
Mhm.
You read, wasn't it last Sunday?
Yeah.
And then you put it on the
Posted it, yeah.
On the Facebook thing.
It was really,
Yeah, because God is bound by nothing. It's not bound by any. It's not in one planet. It's not in one person. It's not in one being. It's not in one place. It's everywhere.
but it was very different.
Yeah, I like the way he put it.
It's very similar to the phrase, be careful what you put after the words I am. Because
Yeah.
you, from that point on, you shape your reality. Well,
Okay.
from that point on, you shape what love can be or what God can be.
Right. It's like you put yourself in a box too.
Mhm.
And I ultimately think that, they say that blasphemy is the sin. When they say you sin against God, right? And they say in the beginning was the I am, and the word was with the I am. What if blasphemy simply is I am anything? anything limiting, like I am stupid, I am worthless. What is that? What if that is really the blasphemy that they're talking about? Since we are all part of God, I am stupid, I'm blaspheming God right there.
Anything that goes against you.
Yeah, anything that goes against the unlimitedness. And if you say I am anything, you've simply limited it. So the best thing to say is I am, period. I am. And not leave any definition to it. But, life winds up usually giving us definitions. I'm a mother, I'm a this, I'm a therapist, whatever it is. And those things typically put us in boxes where we're not free to move anymore.
Did you see that Nassim Harriman video? He's a physicist from Poland.
Bambi was just talking about him. We've watched 2 of his videos here. Which one was it?
This is the one where he says we're all connected, and he found out how we're all connected. The space between the galaxies, or between the atoms, or between the molecules. There is nothing except energy in that space. And the space is in, that's what he said with the Buddha, or whatever, said that God is within us. Well, that space that connects everything.
So you can go as far in as you can go as far out.
Yeah, it's that Planck.
He says
Planck something.
The electrons that are blinking in and out of existence, which I know for a fact happens, because I worked at Cryovac. We had electron beam accelerators. We had these rods and these accelerators that would collect the electrons, but nobody, where in the hell did all these electrons come from? They just come. But they're not sucking them out of the air. But anyway, he says these electrons blinking in and out, they're going to God and giving the signal or telling the message of what we've learned. And they're coming back to us. And then we experience, and we're looking back at God, because God is all around us. But we're experiencing reality through God. And then the electrons blink out and they go to God, they go to space and give our report or whatever and come back.
Another translation I have that is that each one of us, like our planet has that toroidal field, because Nassim's talking about the toroidal field being the main thing. And that's how I found on his information, because I had this whole idea that, this orb's around us. And then I was looking for some pictures, because I thought I had this unique idea, and then I find on his stuff.
He's a whole galaxy, or whole solar system.
Right, so it's a bunch of
solar system, it's galaxy.
So it's basically a bunch of these toroidal fields, just like the Russian nesting dolls, okay?
Exactly.
But the thing about that is every one of us is one of these fields. So individually, we're blinking in and out like a strobe light that is turned up really fast. So fast that you can't see it blink off and on. So really what we're doing is we are blinking out with a particular mindset, and then we come back into reality. If you can change your perceptions when you blink out, when you blink back in, it's an entirely different reality. The thing is we keep the reality because we keep certain mental things restricting.
Well, like you said, who are you when you blink out? When you go back into
whatever you're focused on, whatever your beliefs are and your perceptions, right? That's why I'm drawn to the whole thing about changing those, because you're only going to change your reality by changing those. And it's funny, but the thing about full circle is I watched that movie. What got me to contemplating the whole thing about my core is that movie, Rise of the Guardians, where Santa Claus has swords and you see it.
I saw half of it.
There was Jack Frost, and Santa Claus takes it apart, and at the very center is Santa Claus with these big eyes. His core was wonder, right? And Jack's wound up being fun, and the Easter bunnies was hope. And when I watched that movie, it got me to contemplating, what's my core? And what I thought at the moment, I thought it was understanding, knowledge, sight. And then through that contemplation is what led to me realizing that my core is caring. And that I've gotten sidetracked off of my core because I was trying to learn more knowledge so that I could care for people more. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. But my core is caring. That's where my power comes from, as in caregivers, right? So that's why if I'm trying to go based on the knowledge, I'm not working from my magical center or my core. So
that man figured out too that the mass of that space in everything in the universe was the same.
Mm-hmm. And the thing about that too, though, is that in that space, everything was. That's the fractal hologram thing. In other words, inside of you would open up to the multiverse. It's that big. So if you can be in that center space, which is that Christ access that space, then you have access to absolutely everything, because all knowledge is already tied into you because you have the exact same thing. But you've got to be of the right heart, not the right mind. Heart tells the mind what to think and feel. So you got to be in the right heart, and then you access knowledge in a different way. It comes through completely different. I've done sessions before trying to come from the mind, and I get what's wrong, but I sometimes get disabled being able to address it because my heart is focused on the information, not the caring part. So I'd be reading the incantation, pulling in like religion, wanting this to heal, but my heart was in the wrong place. Not in a bad place, but not in my heart. I wasn't in my heart. So we got to come back to our hearts to have the power work. So that's why things like The Secret are so hard to work, because we're trying to do this from a mental state. Because you got to be in the heart to do it. I mean, what does your heart want to do? Your mind then works to get your heart's desire. It's not your mental desire. What does your heart really desire? Because that's where your true wealth is going to come from.
Have you ever answered the question, if money were no object, what would your life be?
Oh yeah, I played with that a lot.
At one point, I decided, well, I would live in a library and own a petting zoo. So I frequent the library, and we have 4 pets. It's not exact perfect, but it's
part,
it's headed that direction.
You got your toe in heaven.
Her house
So-
is probably a library.
You know what?
I said her house is probably a library.
Yeah.
Not good. I have good
Quite a few
books, but
yeah. So having played with that idea, I thought we'd do some tapping as usual and see where we go from there. Hey Steve, when we hit that red button where it says record on there, it'll just stop what it's doing.
The movie button?
Yeah.